Thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to follow up on some of the comments of my colleagues, David Cicilline of Rhode Island and Darrell Issa of California, and some of the responses, plus some of the written testimony that we've had the benefit of. Dr. Brennan stated in response to a question from Darrell Issa that the Islamic State has, quote, metastasized from various elements of Islam, end quote. Further, in Dr. Brennan's written testimony, I'm going to read some quotes. Quote, while the threat is often portrayed as terrorism, the true danger is the ideology that provides the logic of extremism, violence, and acts of inhumanity, end quote. Next, another Dr. Brennan quote. While bin Laden has been killed, the ideology of Salafi jihadism continues to spread, and the global threat posed by al-Qaeda, ISIS, and affiliated groups is greater than ever, end quote. Next, again from Dr. Brennan. Quote, while the tactic of terrorism is frequently the immediate threat focused upon by political leaders, I think it is critical to note that the ideology underlying these actions seeks revolutionary change of the existing political and social order. Thus, the strategic challenge of our generation isn't one particular group of insurgents or terrorists. It is the ideology that gives them cause. Defeating this ideology will require the development of a grand strategy that employs all elements of national power and influence. And then finally, Dr. Rand, I'm going to quote from her written remarks, quote, ISIL's savage tactics are at the very core of its ideology. While al-Qaeda justifies individual suicide bombing attacks against civilians in civilian areas through fatwas explaining the conditional necessity, ISIL has adopted a new ideology, manipulating select stories from Islamic history and modern jihadi texts to redefine jihad and to generate a blanket justification for violence, including against women and children, end quote. If we take these remarks of Dr. Rand and Dr. Brennan on face value, Dr. Brennan, can America permanently defeat the Islamic State and other Islamic terrorist organizations without also defeating the underlying ideology that attracts so many fighters to their cause?
The short answer to that is no. I mean, I think what we find is that this is an ideology of revolution. And if during the late 20th century we had Marxism provided the ideology of revolution that went around the world, today this is it. We have to confront the ideology.
Dr. Rand, do you concur that the answer is no, that we have to defeat the ideology that breeds so many reinforcements to the Islamic State and other Islamic terrorist organizations?
Certainly, Congressman, we are. This is one of the 9 pillars and the areas where the coalition is working on the counter-radicalization, countering violent extremism. And what's promising in this regard is some of our Arab partners are beginning and starting programs in their own country. Ideology. Recently, in Egypt, for example, a fatwa was issued against some of the ISIS ideology that was unprecedented, in fact. Thank you.
With respect to Ambassador Jeffrey, Dr. Brennan, and Dr. Rand, how can America best conduct itself to defeat the underlying Islamic ideology of the Islamic State and its brethren, Islamic terrorist organizations? Whoever wants to answer.
I'll start. I agree with the problem. I would be very skeptical of the idea of we, the United States or the Western world, defeating a philosophical concept or distortion of a religion. That's a very tricky thing. The vast majority of Muslims around the world are not our enemies. They look at their religion differently than the Salafists and the ISIS people and the people around the...
Okay, I'm not asking for kind of an overall picture of what's going on. I'm asking for what has to be done to defeat it.
Right.
I have limited time, 40 seconds.